You're going to start with a pile of your favorite t-shirts here. Cut the 12-inch square out of the front. Now as you can see, we've got the squares already cut out on the different shirts. And what has happened is interfacing has been added to the back of the t-shirt. Here are all of our squares. So what we're just going to do now is we've got the interfacing on the back. We're just going to square these up. And to square up, I've taken one shirt that I've used as a pattern, and I'm just going to pretty much lay it on top of the other shirt, and we're just going to kind of just square these up. So now I've finished squaring up all of the squares that my client had cut out previously. So what we're doing now is I'm sorting them by color, and we're going to add, this is our blue contrast, because his school colors are blue and the gold. It's blue and gold. So I've cut these 4-inch strips, and I'm going to take the strips and attach them now to each of the top and the bottom of the t-shirt. I've attached the blue strip to the tops of the t-shirt, and I kind of did it in like an assembly line fashion. I just kind of like sewed one, and I just kept them all going until I got to the end of my strip, and then you just go back and just cut the strips. I've attached the trim to the tops of all of the t-shirt squares, and I've even gone and pressed them down. I pressed them with the seam going toward the actual trim itself. So now we're ready to attach our side trim of the t-shirt. My client has chosen the gold. What you want to do at this time is you want to line up your squares to know which ones you want in succession or which ones you want to cross. Here are all the squares. They've all got the blue strip connected in between them. And what you're going to do now is we're going to take the gold, which is our gold strip, and it's going to go on the side. I'm going to kind of just lay them on the table here to give me an idea of which ones I want where, because you don't want two colors right beside each other unless you just don't have no choice. So now, as I said, what we're going to do is we're going to put the strip in between here. That strip is going to be in between there and in between here and also in between there. You see, I have sewn all of the yellow trim in between all of the t-shirts as my client requested. And we're just using a basic simple quilt batting. As far as the back of the quilt, she has chosen this soccer print. I want to tell you a little bit about the backing. This fabric is 45 inches wide, and her quilt is 70, almost 80 inches wide. So what I've done is I've cut the fabric, the length of the quilt, and I actually cut two pieces, and we're going to connect them. So what I will do is I'll take the extra piece, the second piece I got, we'll split it down the middle, and then you're going to take one side, sew it on the left side, and you're going to take the other side and sew it on the other side. I'm going to take this fabric and I'm going to split it. I'm going to take 11 inches and put 11 inches on one side, and then I'll take 11 inches and put it on the other side. Where I've connected my strips on the side of my large piece of fabric, you can see here are my seams. See, there are my seams there. Now we're ready to put the quilt together. You're going to need your pins. Taking the backing of the quilt, and you want to put it wrong side facing up. You're going to layer the batting on top. So I'm going to place my batting right to the edge of my fabric, and just to secure it, I'm just going to put a couple of pins in place. All the batting has been put in place on top of the backing. So now we're going to take the quilt top and we're going to layer it on top of the batting. Well, as you can see, I've got the batting sandwiched in between the actual quilt. Here's the back side. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to stitch in the ditch to hold the quilt, the batting, and the backing in place. And I'm just using a clear monofilament thread, and I'm just stitching in the ditch. I stitched around the yellow border, because you know we had the yellow border around the outside, and we had the yellow border that separated the two squares. So what I did is I quilted the outline of all the yellow. So now we're ready to add the seam binding. I got all my seam bindings put together. So now that we've got our quilt quilted, we're going to attach the seam binding. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some extra seam binding out to the edge here. So I'm going to just leave a little extra, and I'm not going to start on the corner. I'm going to start kind of like right in here. And we're just going to place it, put it in place, and you're just going to sew. But starters, let's go ahead and sew the binding to the quilt. I'm sewing the binding, and now I'm at a corner. I'm going to show you a neat little trick for doing the perfect corner. So I'm going to sew down, and I'm going to get to the 5/8 mark here, and I'm going to stop. Now back stitched to keep that in place. You're going to take the seam binding, and you're going to fold it over like in a 45-degree angle, kind of like so. And then you're going to take it and fold it back over. So in other words, you're making an L shape with the fabric. You're just taking the fabric and you're making an L shape so that everything lines up. You're going to have a fold line that's going to line up over here with your seam. And then this edge is going to line up just like the other side. See how I have the 1/4 inch excess? And what you're going to do is you're going to sew the 5/8 inch seam allowance down here, and you want to start with and stop with a back stitch to hold it in place. Now when we get back to the spot where we started, you notice I left extra. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of that off. I guess I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch or so, maybe 3/4 inch. And you're going to fold this down like this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put this one on top, and you're going to cut it right at the same spot where you cut the other one. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to cover that up. So as you see, we're going to fold this down here, and we're going to fold this down here, and we're going to continue sewing till we get back to the spot where we start. You see how we joined the fabric right here? Joined it together. Okay, I finished attaching the binding. You see I've sewn it in place. See, here is our binding. See, the binding's been attached. You're going to take your binding and you're going to fold it. You're going to meet your seam. And when you meet the seam, you're going to wrap it over like that. And when you wrap it, you want to make sure that the fold edge covers over the stitch. And then you're going to pin this. You're going to pin this all the way around. So now we're down to the corner. So this is what we're going to do for the corner. See, it almost looks like it's a little pocket there. And it's kind of standing up on its own. See that? Isn't that kind of neat? So what you're going to do is you're going to fold down just like you've been doing all the way around, and you're going to put your pins in place. Now when you get to the corner, I don't know if you can see that. Let me turn it so you can see it. Now you can see it. When you get to the corner, you're going to fold this in. And when you fold it in, as you can see, you're getting like a 45-degree angle right there. You're going to fold this in and you're going to bring this down. And when you do that, the two corners will match, or the two folds will match perfectly. And when you do that, you're just going to put a pin in place. And that miters your corner so that you can stitch your binding in place. And then when you fold it over, see, you've got this nice finished corner. Now the purpose for folding over this binding on top of that stitch, because what you're going to do here is you're going to stitch in the ditch. And when you do that, you're going to grab this side of the fabric. And that way you're going to have a nice stitch going around here, but you won't see anything on this side. Now I'm going to start my stitch in the ditch. And what I decided to do is I'm using the same clear thread. I don't know if you can see it because it's an invisible thread. But I'm using the invisible monofilament thread that I used to quilt the outside of the block, because there were so many colors it was kind of hard to use one thread. So I'm going to use that when I stitch in the ditch, because none of us are perfect, and when you stitch in the ditch, sometimes you miss. But by using the monofilament thread, at least if you miss, it won't show up as bad. Well, now we've finished our quilt. As you can see, here's our t-shirt square here. There's the blue trim that she wanted added. Here is the gold trim And then of course we got the seam binding, and on the back, here's our backing fabric. And I think it turned out nice. A nice way to make use of t-shirts. And you know it's how hard it is to wear all your t-shirts, and there's some that you really don't want to wear. But she went so far as back to get t-shirts back when he was in grade school, and then put these all together. So I thought this was a very, very nice quilt. And I hope that you guys try this. Happy sewing!